Okay, live. We're gonna talk about murder and stuff and cucumbers. We're talking about murdering cucumbers.
The horror.
Okay, so we got Walker, Just a Walking Fish, Immutable, and Andrew coming. And we were just and we got Emo coming, I think. And the rage quit on Neff. Who saw it?
Did you end up watching the whole thing, or
No, I fell asleep during one of Neff's sentences in the beginning, and then when I woke up, he was gone. Well, I was like, that was fast.
He only had about 2 or 3, and they just kept going.
So he had 3. I fell asleep during the first one, I think.
Yeah, 5-minute long sentences. Huh?
Neff had a rage quit moment.
Oh, yeah. Neff went on Creation Myths, Dr. Dan's channel, and he rage quit like 30 minutes into the conversation.
Really?
Because Dan had to mute him.
Yeah. Neff just kept talking over him. Like, he wasn't even letting Dan make his points on his own channel, so he muted him. He's like, all right, so here's why this is like wrong at the premise, and then he just rage quit.
Yeah, Jesus.
So I think
it would be dense, but man, that's
I think the thing with Nephilim is that he's got some kind of OCD with talking, with sentences, with getting his point out.
No, I think part of it is like he's probably suffered neural damage, like due to alcohol abuse.
Could be, but he seems like he has to repeat the same thing over and over again, and I can kind of relate to him because if I'm trying to make a point and I'm not sure everybody got it, I will do it in another way and another way.
Okay, but the thing is, like, you're approaching your 70s. Nephilim is like early 50s, I think.
Is he really that young?
Oh, he's younger than that, honestly.
And we know his real name. We can look it up.
Okay, Immutable. So you're saying I have fucking brain damage? Is that what you just?
Well, okay. What we're saying is,
hang on a second. Okay.
As pristine as it was in your
How do you remove somebody from the stream?
If anything I said is wrong, feel free to correct me.
I don't know. Isn't Immutable your production manager? He should be able to answer.
Yeah, fucking production manager. I want to talk to you guys about that. When I'm talking to Otangelo and I'm watching chat, and at the same time trying to upload all of his papers, I can't keep up with him. Right? He keeps running in circles.
Yeah. And
so next time we do this, I want somebody in the background loading papers and watching chat. So.
So like almost like a moderator type thing, but not like just like a facilitate if the chat has questions or something.
But no, to answer your fucking snarky Milliweenie question, Immutable, I've been like this all.
Question. That wasn't a question. That was a statement.
I've been this way all of my life.
Well, I guess some people have better luck at the casino than others.
And we are proud, Speed. We are proud.
Oh, where's that remote? I gotta find the remove button. I can't.
It's gotta be here somewhere.
It's gotta be here. I need a big red eject button right under Immutable, like an explosion. It sparks on the screen and everything. Anyway, so I want to get something out of the way. When I talked to Otangelo today, now I read textbooks on basically morphogenesis, embryology. There is nothing in any textbook I have on bioelectrics or basically bioelectric fields. However, I was wrong.
What?
I was wrong. Bioelectrics is something that we are currently looking into. Michael Levin and Christopher Martinyuk and a few other people are looking into the possibility of bioelectric codes in the in development that they're looking into limb regeneration and antler horn. Basically, antler horns seem to have memory. When they break off, they form in exactly the same spot. And I think they're wrong, but there could be part of it. The interesting thing is in the paper by Michael Levin, one of the things that we discussed today was how neurons couldn't possibly form because you need all 4,
Okay, I just need to get this out of my chest, but is bioelectric code like the biologist's retarded way of referring to like signaling pathways themselves?
Electrical signaling pathways, I think.
God, just call them what they are. God, we already have a name for that.
Well, okay, I'm going to share a, let's see if I I better stop. Better not do that. Anyway,
I mean, we know how like signaling works in cells. You know, ligand voltage channels, things like that. This is common biochemistry.
okay. One of the things that I talked to him about was he was saying that the neuron is irreducibly complex.
You like
And
Elvis?
in this paper, they show you why some of those membrane. He said, okay, if you just had one membrane channel, it wouldn't be a neuron, right? Well, he kind of this paper kind of counters him on that, because this paper talks about some of these voltage gated membrane channels being used in biogenesis or morphogenesis. So he actually gave me a lead as to how a neuron could have evolved.
It's
Inadvertently.
It's almost like when you read a paper cited by a creationist, it almost never agrees with the creationist.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I got to finish. The thing is, they don't know a hell of a lot yet. But anyway, I pushed back on him and I discounted him, and I was wrong about that. And I just want to get that out of the way.
Yeah, I never really understood the whole concept or the argument about neurons being irreducibly complex, because I mean, okay, so I'm definitely not an expert on this, but I remember I wrote a paper in high school. We were supposed to write about something to do with cognition. So I wrote about like the evolution of cognition, because I'm a cop out. And I remember I found that like sponges and jellyfish and ctenophores, they have like very basic like bioelectric pathways and neurochemical pathways and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I think it, like, you know, Urbilateralia would have had something like a very, very basic neuron. But, you know, you could just go through like comparative morphology and look at like a protostome versus a deuterostome and see, okay, well, these things developed completely differently, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think it's very irreducibly complex. I think he has better irreducible complexity arguments than that one.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, we know some of the neural networks for like nematodes and things like that.
Yeah.
And we can kind of see like where function lies in the configuration of those kind of systems.
Yeah.
It makes sense in an evolutionary framework how those things can grow and change and develop over time. But I can understand why somebody would think it's irreducibly complex from a standpoint where literally things just get poofed into existence by magic.
Oh, for Christ's sake, I can't find this Chrome tab because it's some sort of a site that keeps trying to load ads. Where is it? Messenger. Okay, Angelo's messaging me, but I can't find this site, so I'm going to have to do it another way.
If Otangelo stumbles across this video, I do want to say he seems like a really nice individual. So
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I think he's a much better person to interact with than like Maddox.
The thing is, like, I don't know if it's just a European thing, but Europeans are very hard to piss off.
Fair enough.
To piss off. I mean, you can easily piss off Europeans, but it's a talent almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So here is an article about with my that's Mike Levin. He's the guy that's studying this stuff. And it says his tinkering with bioelectric currents has created some Frankensteins, flatworms, and with cat-like heads and tadpoles that could detect light through eyes on their tails.
What?
And yeah. And scientists in every walk of life all had the same reaction to his work. He's either going to win the Nobel Prize or prove the bioelectric code wrong. So this is an emerging field, and I don't think it lends any support to Otangelo, but
what's the long and short of the bioelectric code?
We're not sure yet. They don't. The long and short is we don't understand it yet. They just know that it's a possibility.
Well, what is it? Like, what's its hypothesis?
That I'm not sure that there's some code that we don't understand. That okay, when a cell is created, the cell is modified to promote certain proteins. Those proteins create other proteins and regulate other genes, and it feeds back into itself. So it's a feedback system. So it's a cybernetic control loop, right? So they're suggesting that part of that control loop may be bioelectric memory that stays in the organ, so that once an organ is created or there are electric fields in the organ that will cause certain cells to fire to upregulate a proteome that will define what the cell is going to be. So that's the hypothesis. So that's what he's working on. And
I can find that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like just another way for cells to basically regulate themselves.
Well, you know how Otangelo was saying that some of those mechanisms weren't genetic fundamentally. Is there any evidence that this is fundamentally still genetic?
I was reading Otangelo's message and I missed that. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just wondering if bioelectric systems like you were talking about, if that kind of regulation was still based around genetics, if they found that yet.
Well, it would have to be. Basically, unless they can prove that fields come from somewhere else, which is what Otangelo was trying to say, that there's some sort of neural connection. And it seems like he was kind of moving me off the mark of getting that question answered about what he thinks. And I think one of the things that he said was that we don't know much about it yet. And that's true. We don't. So is that? Yeah, but it basically, if it forms, how else can it form? The information that the zygote has is the information it gets from the mother. Like the DNA or the proteome of the mother is what the zygote consists of. So at the point of one cell, a zygote, it has a DNA from the father and the mother, but it has a proteome from the mother, and it has a mitochondria from the mother. So it's basically the mother's cell, and then it starts to modify itself according to its own DNA. So it would have to be, unless they could prove that some other kind of field interferes with the growth of an organism. My question would be, where the hell does that field come from? So.
Hey, I'm gonna actually look that up right now. You guys keep talking.
Okay, we got a link here from Walker. What are you doing, Walker? I was just looking for another paper. Hang on a second. I want to find one.
I mean, that's not like a paper. It's like, it's more of a pop sci thing where it just sort of accumulates all the current. It's not super current. It's from 2016.
Okay,
but
so
it accumulates. Huh?
So it's a review paper.
Yeah. It's just a review of basically the evolution of neurons, and it goes through like at least what the understanding at the time was. And I can only assume that we have a better understanding now than we did then. What?
Yeah, review papers are papers as well. They're just secondary literature.
Oh, for God's sake. Son of a bitch. It won't let me copy that. It won't let me copy it. It keeps going to the show thing.
I can put it in private chat as well.
I'll put it in private chat.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read it or anything. I just think that'd be an interesting read. It might, put you onto some sources, give you some rabbit holes to follow.
Yeah.
Because God knows Michael doesn't have enough already.
I don't have enough rabbit holes and enough paper sitting on my desk. I've got another 4,500 sheets of paper, and then I got to go back to Sam's Club and get some more.
Do you need some more soil to fill in those rabbit holes?
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I have to go to Menards to get the soil.
Okay. You're $20.
I've learned to hate the word rabbit hole because of that mad ox person.
Oh.
Really? How does he abuse the term rabbit hole now?
Oh, rabbit holes and premises, about those two words. I swear he's going to burn them into the ground. So here is, basically normal embryonic development. This is all pretty naive because, I mean, no one ever denied that there was a feedback process from, one tissue type back to another tissue type, right?
Right.
No one's ever denied that. We've known that for 40, 50 years. But they're claiming, if you go down here, okay, we've got nerve impulse. So we got hardware, ion channel, synapses. Where did I see the? Okay, it was right here. So basically, you've got a developing cell here, supposedly. And I haven't read this paper. I got through about 3 pages. But we've got basically some, what do we got? Voltage gated transporters. This is a neuron. This is, serotonin 5-HT is involved in a whole lot of other tissues besides neurons. But this also gives us a pathway to look at for the development of neurons, the evolution of neurons. So anyway, midnight here.
Hey, You guys hear me?
Hey, yeah, hi.
Yep.
Okay, I was looking at the paper
No.
that
Yeah, for some reason it's like formatted like manga style, like right to left. Here's one from Science Direct.
What the?
Link. Yeah, I'll put the better format like here.
Walker's just trying to confuse us.
The goal.
I mean,
Early evolution of neurons.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like a cool article.
Hey, Ben, how you doing?
let's say all right.
Did I irritate you the other morning when you got on my weather report? Did I irritate you?
No, it wasn't you. It was Smokey. Although I did get a little irritated, like a little bit. When you told Smokey, movement doesn't exist. I'm like, you mentioned that to someone who doesn't understand quantum mechanics. He's just
Okay.
laughed at you and left.
I don't mean to derail this too much, but did y'all see the Maddox and Smokey debate versus I don't know, two other dudes?
Oh, kind of.
Oh my god!
What was it, Rib or something?
God, they were assholes.
Yeah, they were being so rude and condescending. Like, and not even condescending isn't even the right word to describe it. They were just being assholes. Like,
They were
like, all right, so they were calling them like anti-Semites and like pedophilia apologists and all this stuff. Huh?
Okay. I didn't watch the debates, full disclosure, but Smokey Taint has a feud with the
raging.
Yeah, thank you. With raging, where he thinks raging is is an anti-Semite, just because he's like, oh well, you're the Jews or whatever the hell were sheep fuckers, or, like what I mean, shit like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I think what he was saying was even more baseless. In the debate, I don't remember what the exact quote was from, but yeah, he was calling them like anti-Semites, rape apologists, pedophilia apologists. They kept calling like the degenerate morons, and they were just talking down to him the whole time. And they got onto the subject of abortion, and they basically like made fun of one of the guys because he had like emotional.
I saw that.
It was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I wanted to make the guy cry, and I made him cry. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, they legitimately do more to hurt Christianity than help it, I think. Like, they make their positions look so bad. Oh my god. Okay, that's my only input on that. But
anyway, okay, I got a couple things to say about that. Number one, if you've ever experienced calling the shots on an abortion in your marriage or relationship, you will know that you don't fuck with people when they go through that process. They will punch you in the mouth. Yeah. Because it is not the easiest decision to make, and it tears you up, and it creates emotional damage for a long time. You do pay a price for aborting a child.
Well, I mean, that
breathe.
Jesus Christ. That's always obvious. People, not to get too much on a tangent, but pro-lifers think, pro-choice or pro whatever the fuck abortion, they just kill babies left and right. It's so easy for them. They're monsters.
Right.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
Not so.
Well, apparently now, according to the far right, pro-life isn't even pro-life anymore. It's pro-abortion, which
I call it pro-abortion.
The opposite is
yeah. I'm antinatalist, so nah, I'm not.
Okay, Vegeta.
I don't mind calling it pro-abortion. I like to call it. I like to call it what it is, and I have some history with it, and I know what it's like, and I know what it's like to walk into a fucking clinic with somebody you love, and they have some people sticking propaganda in their face and screaming at them and wanting to kill them. That's what it's like.
Jesus.
At the time you go through it, you were
wait. They're pro-life, but they wanted to kill you. That makes sense.
Oh no, I wanted to kill them.
Off topic. Well, it's more on topic than this tangent. That link that I sent you, I put another link from Science Direct. It's pretty much that, but better formatted.
Yeah.
It doesn't look quite as pretty.
Okay, so we'll get rid of this one.
Yeah.
So it's not not right to left, or what the hell?
Well, no, the words were all right to left, but it was in 3 different columns, and the columns were like the first column was on the right, and then the second one was in the middle, and the third one was on the left.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I remember reading. There are a lot of papers, reading, there are two columns and they go from left to right. Those I can do, kind of. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
the other one was like, what the fuck? Where do I start?
Aren't there certain countries where you read it from right to left?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Japanese is like that. I think Chinese as well, but don't quote me on that.
What just happened? What did I go back?
Like, why is everything zoomed out? I don't know.
Well,
Oh,
no.
bro.
See, if you see that it turns. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. If you read the actual paper, it's that way. But on the site, that's weird.
Oh, this is it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
It just went to a different link and downloaded the PDF. Okay. So can you see that? Okay.
Yeah.
Need to make it bigger? No.
Yeah, I'm definitely reading this later on my own.
Yeah, me too. So, what is a neuron? I don't know.
It's a
I don't
neuron.
have any. Mine are all defective according to Immutable. They're all fucking old.
Well, at least some of them are.
Ooh.
That's the ones that count, dude.
The ones that are still alive and still working at half capacity.
I mean,
Shut the fuck up. I'll throw y'all out.
Oh boy. It's going to be another speed stream if that happens, eh?
I got the power.
Oh, you do.
he's got the power.
If I could find the right button, I'd have the power.
Uh-oh. Be
Apparently,
careful.
it's being emailed now.
Don't want to trigger him.
5 major animal clades. Oh, clades. This is your stuff, Walker.
Yeah, I know. That's what I saw, and I was like, "Oh, this looks good. I should send it over." Although I am kind of confused. The phylogeny that he has there puts ctenophores as sister to poriferans, when I think ctenophores are slightly more derived. Yeah, and I think the Darians are less derived than placozoans, but I might be wrong there as well. But I'm pretty sure ctenophores are more derived than sponges.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that is
It's
neurons
very ancient. So
are very much at the base of this tree, aren't they? Or at
Neurons, like
calcium.
the origin of neurons and stuff.
Yeah, ion channels are very, very basic, and these are calcium, potassium, sodium, and I don't know what else we got.
Okay, can you zoom it? You know what? Never mind. I'll look at the image later. But I can't see shit.
I can zoom one more time. Is that better?
Doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Okay. Anyway, so we have that paper, and then we have 11, and there was another one too on cucumbers, which caused me to put the cucumber icon on our site. Not that I'm not going to make fun of Otangelo. So anyway, I learned something today, and that's always good. So, but I'm sure Standing for Truth will put this little clip on his channel, like he does my saying I was blindsided by satellite DNA. The other night when I didn't show up for that Otangelo debate, they were running that clip and laughing their asses off at it. The fact that Raw Matt phoned a place like 3 weeks before where I was talking about satellite DNA. And then I said that when I was hanging out with you midnight, I think, and somebody else, I said I was blindsided by him bringing up satellite DNA. And I explained that the reason I was blindsided is because Standing for Truth is a fucking idiot. And it had nothing to do with that fusion site.
Why, Mike? That's not very atheist of you. We can't call them retarded.
I call him a fucking idiot. I didn't call him retarded.
Come on, Mike. I signed up for more hardcore shit than this. You got anything better to throw at them? Come on.
Look. If I can just say something, it really bothers me how they want respect, but they don't want to give it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a little bit irony.
I did a transcript for that site, and I couldn't listen to it because it just, it's irritating to hear 5 people picking on you because your YouTube channel is so small that nobody is ever going to pay attention to you, and I'll never get 100 subs.
It's a dick measuring contest.
I mean, yeah, it's like, and then when he was trying to lure me into that talk with Otangelo on his channel,
I mean, you hardly make any content. From what I've seen, Standing for Truth lives online, which is ironic coming from me, which I'm disabled, so I can make that excuse.
Anyway, it was just shoddy of them to do that, but Anyway, I have the transcript. I managed it. Transcribing it's a little difficult. You have to use Google Docs to do it, and you have to play it out loud. So I went in and took a bath while the thing was playing. Came out, still fucking talking about me after 30 minutes. What jerks.
It's because you're just that
You
cool.
know,
I said no to him.
you have that much to say about what, like 69-year-old man?
Yeah. Yep.
If
69 and a
it's-
half.
if it's any consolation, I enjoy, or I look forward to our discussions with all of our friends here more so than anyone like commenting on your videos or giving hate mail or stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I think the discussion part where you actually can meet people is more valuable than people saying like, "Oh, this video was stupid" or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
I've wanted really few things from this community, and one of those things that has never happened really, with too many people, has been just
honest dialogue.
stop switching arguments and actually address the initial argument you want to make.
Right.
Because I always assume, and it makes sense to assume, that like when you talk to a person, the first argument they bring is their best argument, and the other arguments that they're going to make are going to be worse.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like there's something that's weaker to them or something like that.
Yeah, and there's this. Let's see if I can bring that over and drop that into a tab. This is, oh hell, this is bad. I'm
Have
gonna
you
go.
ever had an issue like with full screening?
What's that?
Wait, hold on. Are we still looking at what is the neuron? What is this?
No,
No,
this
we're looking at a transcript. I'm not going to do
is a
that.
video.
Hang on a second here. Going to pages.
I
Pages.
understand why your computer has such a bad time like full screening.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of touching on Andrew's point that he said earlier, though. I do think there's more of. I don't like how a lot of, especially the stuff that they have, like the dialogues that they have over there is like, all right, we're gonna have one or two people defending evolution come in, and then we're gonna have like 7 creationists dogpile them and not let them say anything. To me, that doesn't seem very honest or too very like. It doesn't sound like a very open discussion, and that's why I haven't gone on to any of their after shows or anything. I just don't feel like. I feel like it's not the place that facilitates honest dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't want an open discussion.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I was talking to Dr. Dan about this earlier, but like that's one of the reasons I like where he does the one-on-one thing, because I feel like that's just way more productive.
The thing is, like when you're one-on-one with somebody, and it doesn't matter who it is, be it like somebody who's a contemporary to you or somebody who's like on the opposition, you have a lot more intimacy and a lot more room to kind of
Like dig in.
dig in and kind of like jab at the bullshit.
Fuck
Where
is this monstrosity? Like, are we looking at Standing for Truth's book? Like, like the prototype?
No,
I still have nightmares about that fucking book. The green background. Like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, you can't print his shit out because he's got colored backgrounds. So I have to copy it over to a Word doc to print it out so I can get rid of the background, or it would drain my inkwell printer. You could hear a suction.
And it's hard. It's hard to read.
I know it is.
Even
the
online.
thing is also like to kind of touch and expand on Walker's point as well. I don't understand like the behavior they present on their channel. Like, okay, 2 evolutionists come in and 7 creationists are going to come in and dogpile. The goal of his channel, and I mean the goal of all of their channels, really is to bring people to Christ, isn't it? Or at the very least, have creationism as something that's more accepted. How is that helping your cause? Like by inviting people on, not letting them really get their point out, and dogpiling them.
Right.
By the way, Smokey kind of make fun of my stutter. Oh, you're blabbering. I'm like, oh.
Did he really?
Well, don't you remember on the morning report?
Oh,
Really?
Yeah. What a dick.
Wait, no. Hold on. It was no. Sorry, I'm getting people confused. Or was it Jill? I'm getting confused, but somebody did that. I think it was Bill. Was smoking?
Hey, oh,
Doesn't
uh,
matter. Go ahead.
just an off-topic point. When like arguments and theism and stuff like that, have any of you guys heard of Russell's teapot? I just found out about it lately.
No. What is that?
Bertrand
Um,
Russell's teapot.
Yeah, so it's otherwise known as the celestial teapot. So basically, when arguing for atheism, or at least like agnostic atheism, Bertrand Russell, I think like a philosopher, I believe,
He is
basically,
a mathematician.
right, mathematician too. He basically argued.
Basically, he was a genius. Okay, moving on. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. He argued that if he were to propose a China teapot orbiting the sun between Earth and Mars, I believe, and he specified that it was too small for our current telescopes to detect. Basically, he said, "What should you believe that claim?" And his point was that since the burden of proof is basically on the person making the claim, and their entire claim is basically you haven't disproven this yet, therefore it's correct, or that you should believe this. Basically, he was making a point about religion and
Burden of proof.
and God being undetectable and stuff like that. And I found it really interesting. Kind of swayed me toward atheism a little bit.
And there's
Okay, if I can add really quick here, Bertrand Russell hated religion. Like he considered it a fucking dragon to slay.
Yeah.
Just wow.
He was quite the atheist. When did he die? How long did Bertrand last?
1970, I believe. Sometime.
Oh, really? He was wrong that long. I've got his Principia and a few other books by him and Whitehead. They did a lot of work in logic and mathematical logic and trying to ground mathematics until Gödel blew him out of the water.
Yeah, I've never heard his specific like teapot analogy, but I mean, whenever I'm talking about burden of proof, I always bring up like unicorns or invisible fairies or something like that. And it's like you're never going to prove that unicorns don't exist, right? The burden of proof is on the people to find that hair of unicorn or find like the eDNA of unicorns. You know, it's not to show that unicorns aren't existing in this specific area, because you can never absolutely prove something doesn't happen. You can only prove that things happen.
Right.
If that makes sense. And I guess like through law of excluded middle and all that other stuff, you can, you know, if you prove something is right, then things that are directly contradictory have to be wrong.
Well, there's something else too. I mean, what I'm surprised what other people don't mention as much, and especially it's a very foundational point for science, but it's called the cosmological principle. It's better known by the name the anthropic principle. And basically, what it states is that the laws of nature, the laws of physics, chemistry, yada 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 yada, are the same as they were back in the past eternally as they are now. That these laws never change over time. And also, like one of the tenets of science is that when we're examining a claim, like when we're trying to assess, you know, is gravity real? Like, does it work the way we think it works according to our models? We always put forth models that require the least number of assumptions possible. Like, we always try to minimize and create like the most parsimonious explanation, like to the data that we see. And part of that is if you propose something more complicated, it's not to say that it isn't correct, but it's that you need more experimentation, like and more quantitization of data to be able to demonstrate that thing as being consistent.
Yeah.
Right. And I think to add on to what both of you guys are saying, I think science is based around probability, so you can never exactly prove something, but you can't disprove it either. It's just how much evidence leads to which claim being correct, either it being disproven or proven or whatever. It's the amount of evidence.
Well, and that's
I agree
the thing.
to an extent.
Well, and the thing is too, it's like it's when people ask, like creationists or whatever, when they ask, like, okay, what's the strongest piece of evidence for evolution? There is not one. Like, there isn't a single piece of evidence. Like the way theories are built, is by their ability to encompass every piece of data, like that concerns that topic.
Yeah.
Like the theory must, by definition, be able to explain all observations that are made and that are hypothesized in relation to it. And it's one of these things where it's like, okay, the geologic column, for instance, could be interpreted in other ways. But there's other things along with the geologic column that make evolution a more plausible option or a more consistent option than some of the other theories you could develop.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's obviously you can't just prove something with science, but I think if you give yourself at least the assumption that the natural world that we're observing is real, and that the world as we know it or the universe as we know it exists has always followed the same constraints, then I think you can more or less prove stuff with science, right? You can never scientifically debunk last Thursdayism. If
Right.
everything was made to look exactly like it was, billions of years old, you can't.
And you can't really debunk or falsify,
Yeah.
the brain in the bat simulation.
Yeah.
Like they're fun thought experiments, but why the
But
fuck do you take them seriously?
Yeah,
Well,
but I just think at the end of the day, if you're assuming that the universe is real and that the same constraints have always applied to it, then you can more or less prove stuff with science.
But then you'd be accused of having presuppositions.
Yeah.
Okay.
To kind of elaborate on the point that's being made here, one of the things I don't think that gets stressed enough, with undergrad science, is the notion, is the importance of statistics in modern science.
Yeah.
Because statistics permits you to say things about how well your data accounts for errors and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Part of what's needed to occur is that you can design experiments and figure out, okay, what's the relative uncertainty I have, in a prediction and things like that. And it's important because some theories are needed to be very precise, within, okay, it has to fall within at least 5 standard deviations of within 5 standard deviations or something like that.
That's a huge range.
Yeah, some are more considerable. Some are okay, it needs to fall within 1 standard deviation.
I didn't pay my
Speed has something that he's been trying to get us, I'm assuming, back on topic.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Speed. I want to bring it up just because I learned about today. So sorry for off topic.
Oh, you're good. No, I thought it was interesting.
Oh my God. I don't believe this, but my 39-year-old son is asking me how to eat chicken stew. I have to
tell him to figure it out. YouTube, something.
Take the chicken out. Take the meat out.
What is trolling your basement?
Put the meat on your. Okay, apparently I didn't pay my bill, or else my credit card. I had a credit card expire, but for some reason I can't. What the hell is that? I didn't put those there.
It's your website.
Yeah, my blog is not coming up anymore, and I don't really understand why. Anyway, I had some information on here about a metaphysical structure that I developed to explain naturalism and why metaphysical arguments are improbable, because so basically you have a reality structure, which I call R1, and which is common sense. I can touch this cup. I know you guys are human. Basically justified basic beliefs is what it's called. Anyway, so you have that R1, and R2 is when you take science and you extend naturalism with science. Well, then outside of that whole range, you have all these metaphysical possibilities. Like we could be a brain in a vat. The universe could have been created last Thursday. Solipsism, all this bullshit. And those things are all in the M1 realm. But the thing about the M1 realm is that there's absolutely no way to prove any of it. So any possibility you come up with, brain in a vat, for instance, could be a mad scientist, could be a lady mad scientist, could be a mad whatever alien. So there are an infinite number of metaphysical possibilities that could explain why we're here. that means that the probability of any one of them being true is 1 over infinity.
Yeah.
Which
Which-
infinity is not even a number, so it would be 1/. No. What was it? Infinity.
They're all equally unlikely.
Really
Yeah.
mad about my
I never
blog.
really thought about that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting concept. It's kind of like Hitchens' razor almost, but it's like a mathematical extension of it, where it's
Yeah.
like what's proposed without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
Yeah, I had nice little drawings and stuff. I'll see if I can pay the bill on that blog.
It seems like they
I had-
reclaimed it.
I've had like 20 views and I've had it out there for like 2 years. So
I have my own blog, but I just never update the fucking thing. I really need to get back into writing.
yeah, I decided I was going to have this online presence about 3 years ago, and I ended up on this fucking shitstorm of a platform. But I started out where I was going to do a blog, and I picked the worst blogging software. I don't know what the hell site that is, but anyway, I wanted to
I
bring
have
things.
WordPress.
Bring things back.
Are we ready to go back to what we were here?
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
hold on. If we're talking about neurons, so do you want to keep? We want to talk about how we atheists are simply monstrous,
We should talk more about that. We are okay. Now, as near as I could tell, Smokey's argument. Now he's really going to get pissed because it's going to sound like a straw man. But I don't really give a shit about the Bible, and I don't read the Old Testament. I don't know what happened, but I know there was some shit about enslaving children that you take from other villages, and apparently,
The
Israel
Amalekites.
did that. So the Jewish people did that.
Yes.
Yes, to the Amalekites.
So if you criticize people that lived in Israel from 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago, you are somehow anti-Semitic?
Yep.
Yep.
Because you weren't there with their cultural values, and you can't judge them. If you didn't have their cultural values, and that makes you a bigot.
Yeah.
That is literally one of the most retarded arguments I've heard in my life. But it's okay.
and then he turns it around and calls you a dumpster fire or
Degenerate moron.
degenerate moron,
dude,
dumpster morals or whatever.
He's like atheist. If you have a subjective worldview, you can justify anything. They're simply monstrous.
Okay, but the thing is, with his interpretation, it has to be subjective because he's like, oh, well, like if you bring up anything that's morally important in the Bible, he's like, oh, well, you're not interpreting it in context. If you're interpreting the morality, then it's subjective.
Exactly.
That's the conversation.
Okay. Here's the more precious part, right? So if you go to like something very basic, like if you try to talk to him about Genesis, because he's not a literalist, he will not hold the position that like Genesis is a literal document, but he will say that certain things like were justified by the culture.
Yeah,
and like
which is subjective.
He fails to establish a metric for which he can determine like what things are literal and what things are like analogical or metaphorical.
Yeah, that's my thing. If there's a good God with an omnibenevolent God with an objective set of morality or an objective set of morals, wouldn't he be able to impart those morals to a backward society, quote unquote, right? Like, wouldn't it just be easier to say, hey, instead of raping people, don't rape people, instead of like, hey, marital rape's okay. You know what I mean? Like,
and is also the fact that if you're supposed to be able to like write a perfect book and you're the most intelligent being in the damn universe, how is it that so many people are getting like radically different interpretations from it?
Oh no! See, I think some of the things they said. Oh well, it was it was written by imperfect beings, inspired by God. It wasn't written by God. It was inspired by God. Which
Then how the heck are we supposed to tell the difference?
Yeah, but no, because they insist that it was absolutely the word of God, the
no.
the unimpeachable word of God, right?
You'll get around that by saying the words were dictated to man by God. So wait, God was fucking with us when he wrote us?
Yeah, but then when you talk about Genesis, they use the reverse argument and say that no, it was absolutely the unimpeachable word of God. God put it into man's mind. There was no subjective bullshit going on. So,
Yeah.
Like
It's a
it,
God
just,
breathed
it
document.
always
God's-
fucking amazed me how the mind can rationalize just so much stuff.
yeah, we should have a Bible study.
Oh,
we-
You know, we could take over from TBR whenever they stopped reading it. That'd be fun.
Literally, like
The Bible Reloaded.
from Hannah and Jake. Or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah, way back when.
Yeah.
They were reading through the Bible. I think they made it through they didn't make it very far, but it's a big book to be fair.
Yeah.
Huh?
if you read like the first chapters of Genesis, I think if you're reading it honestly, like there's almost no way you can avoid like a predestinarian like approach to it.
Mhm.
And the reason I say that is like the narrative of the Bible sets out to say that okay, God created animals and humans and all that, and He created the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. And it also goes on to say that the fruit of the fruit for the knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life are both trees that bear fruit. The tree of life can be eaten from, but the knowledge of good and evil cannot be.
Because you'll become like God.
Yeah, because it would make them like God. That's explained later
Their
on.
knowledge of good and evil.
But the interesting thing about that is when Christians appeal to the fact that, oh, what they did is immoral, like what they did is wrong, that implicitly like invokes a standard of knowing something is evil or not evil, which Adam and Eve didn't have by definition.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things where it's like, okay, well, how would they know if it's good or bad to disobey, to disobey this being?
If they don't know what good and bad is.
Yeah, if they don't know what the notions of something being good or something being bad are. And it also doesn't make sense to punish somebody who doesn't understand what the difference between something good and something bad is.
Mm-hmm.
Like the story, the idea of the story makes sense, but the way it's actually like conducted, like and written, doesn't seem to be coherent.
Oh shit, they're breaking in. I'll be back in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the many problems with Genesis, in my opinion. Although it's a smaller one for sure if you're taking it literally.
Well, I mean, it's one of those points where it's like, okay, I can see where if you're a creationist or if you're somebody who's trying to take a literal approach to Scripture, that's a pretty significant point.
Mm-hmm.
Like to have contention with, because the perspective you're holding is that the Bible is supposed to be this inerrant document that's that essentially that's not able to be incorrect, that's written by a perfect being. And how do you have such an obvious, why is it that you have such an obvious flaw within the story that's being told here?
Yeah, the whole idea of biblical contradictions and things that are just factually incorrect with the Bible was one of the first steps that sort of took me away from Christianity. That, and also the idea that I think the values upheld by large parts of it are kind of abhorrent.
The thing is, I think one of the things that kind of drove that kind of pushed the wedge further between me and my belief structure was that it wasn't the fact that you could interpret things metaphorically, but it was the fact that you could do it almost anywhere you pleased. And it started to become this thing of okay, so obviously the fables of the shepherd are metaphorical. They're quite obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You can interpret other events as being metaphorical as well, oh God, who is it? God talking to one of the people in their dreams. I think it was Isaiah, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it becomes one of these things where it's okay, if you can interpret some parts of the Bible to be metaphorical, what's also preventing you from trying to interpret, the crucifixion
as metaphorical,
and the life and ministry of Jesus as being metaphorical also?
You know, that's actually something I did for a while. There was a while that I mean, obviously, I wasn't like publicly admitting this, but it was something that I held, and it was like, okay, I don't really believe in like pretty much anything in the Bible, but I'm still culturally Christian, right? Like I like the values held by it, and then I realized, you know, I don't think gays should be stoned, and I don't think women should have to marry their rapist. Maybe I'm not culturally Christian. So that was pretty much like the final straw that got cut for me.
Yeah, it's just it seemed to me, because I was always like fairly liberal, like with my beliefs as a Christian,
Mhm.
and to me it was kind of like the more I look into this book, like the more I realize that I'm becoming the term I would discover later on as secular.
Yeah.
You know, I engage in cultural values that associate me as a Christian, but like actual beliefs that the Bible says or implies you should have, not necessarily. Like, you know, not how like the Gnostics were, or things like that, old school Christianity. Like really, really old school Christianity.
Were you ever at any point a creationist, Immutable?
No, I wasn't. I never saw the creation story as being a literal event.
Okay.
I always
Thank
needed-
God for small favors, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I always viewed it as being metaphorical.
Okay.
It's
Sorry,
metaphorical, but it's literal.
That's-
sorry that I took us all into philosophy at this point.
Oh,
no,
no, you're good.
I love philosophy.
So, I guess sort of like I believed that like there was definitely an event, like, you know, okay, God poofed the universe into existence or whatever, but like some parts of it I didn't interpret as literal. Like the 7 days of creation, like the 6 days of creation, I never interpreted as being literal events.
Yeah. I mean, my views. So, like, that's why I always have a hard time saying, like, I would say I was a creationist because I believed that God created the universe more or less as it is. But it was a weird thing because, like, you know, my church wasn't specifically like a young Earth creationist church. So I was never like, you know, they were never bringing up like Answers in Genesis apologetics tactics or anything. You know, I was never reading creationist literature. I was never like presented with, you know, oh, well, here's, if you add up all the genealogies, here's exactly how old the Earth is. You know what I mean? I was never given any of that kind of stuff, but I was always sort of told like, oh yeah, it's the word of God. It's inerrant. This is what happened, you know? So I just didn't, I mean, I was a fucking kid. There's cognitive dissonance, you know?
Right.
I wasn't ever like thinking about the contradictions of what I knew to be true and what I believed in church, you know? And then I started like thinking more into that, and I would have, actually, it's kind of funny. I think I have more of a smoky, or at least I had more of a smoky perspective where I was like, faunal succession happened. I'm kind of agnostic towards evolution. I guess kind of in favor of it, but humans definitely didn't evolve. Humans, there's no way they evolved because we have souls. And then I was like, well, you know.
What the hell were you smoking at the time to think we have souls?
Yeah, well, I mean, so it's kind of interesting. The whole way that, so, you know, I've been open about this. I'm from rural Alabama. And I
hear banjos.
Yeah, well, I was in dulcimers. I was at school one day in study hall, and I got in an argument with this girl who was like strong, like young Earth creationist. And I was like, well, no, here's how we know. And I was like bringing up stuff about the Ice Age because I've always been like super interested in like the Pleistocene and just mammalian megafauna throughout history and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like bringing up like, so we know like this is what happened, but I wasn't bringing up any like human evolution arguments, because I didn't believe in human evolution. And my study hall teacher was like, hey, have you ever seen the Bill Nye versus Ken Ham debate? And I was like, no, I haven't. So I looked it up, and that's sort of what got me into this. I started looking into both sides and all that.
Yeah. So I remember, like, I would say philosophy classes like made me an atheist because it caused me to like to really abstract my own views and interpret them for what they were.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, philosophy is evil because it turns you atheist.
Well, philosophy will shatter your innocence. philosophy will shatter your innocence about
hold on.
your own views of the world if you allow it to.
I could just imagine, somewhere out in the world, there's like a family that says son, daughter, philosophy is evil, it's the devil, yet they believe in religion, which is philosophy.
I used to tell everybody that.
I've met some people who hold that view.
Yeah.
Like that, thinking anything outside the Bible is hellish, is evil.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. But hold on. I want to address this. Okay, so if thinking anything outside the Bible is hellish, what are they in constant anguish because they have thoughts about their card? Like, am I just misunderstanding what you're saying? Because to me,
No.
it seems like
So they genuinely think, I've met people who will genuinely hold the position that everything that you need to do in life and everything that you should do in life can be found by the Bible.
But how are they not a nervous wreck? Oh no, I didn't look at the Bible for making coffee. Just what? I can't wrap my mind around it. Never mind.
Oh, I can't either, because there's certain things I know that the Bible says, and I know that there's certain things the Bible does not say. And I've seen people in that situation, essentially, when you've nailed them on a topic, and it's okay, but the Bible doesn't say anything about how to treat the situation. Essentially, what it resorts to is the person's default behavior, how the person feels they should respond. And
what are you doing, Speed?
I'm fucking with you guys.
That's a lot of the way the conversation tends to
What the
follow.
fuck is that, Maddox?
No, that's Anthony Maurice.
Boy.
Basically, that's Anthony Maurice when he was James Tour was telling him something to confirm some of his views, and it was just holy shit.
Oh, I sent Immutable and Speed this, but the other day, John Perry from Stated Clearly, he interviewed a theistic person who, he interviewed a Christian who's actually an Origins of Life researcher, and I just thought that was really interesting because it came the day after Smokey talked to James Tour. And it was just
so he researches biogenesis.
He's an abiogenesis researcher, but he's also fairly adamantly Christian, and he works in Christian outreach groups and all that kind of stuff to try to promote scientific understanding in Christian circles. What were you saying?
Then he's not a real Christian.
According to Smokey, probably. But
did James Tour have some kind of Jesus moment or something in his life?
Oh God!
Wasn't there also a bet between James Tour or the guy they interviewed and someone else? I'm remembering reading something about a bet between scientists, and it had to do with evolution or something.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I haven't heard about that.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, anybody who's listened to who's done more than just listen to James Tour talk about abio research kind of gets the impression, and it's definitely it definitely seems this way, that he has a dog in this fight. He has a reason for taking the stance that he does.
He does, yeah, and that's the whole point. And then you can discount anything that they say about philosophy after that point, and that's what he is talking about with ideas philosophy.
The thing is, though, too, it's I don't want to beat down on him too much, for how he became a Christian and stuff.
Yeah,
because he claimed he was a hardcore Jew, but he also claims he never knew about the notion of sin. And I was okay, wait.
Well, Jewish people, don't they have a different?
Yeah. So it's interesting because people always talk about Christianity is rooted in Judaism, but actually religious Judaism is very, very different from Christianity.
Yeah.
They're afterlife. Don't quote me on this. I'm not super familiar with Jewish beliefs, but I'm pretty sure it's just one big afterlife, and it's more similar to what the Greeks believed, where it's
the Buddhists,
where it's an underground place where the good people get feasts and all that kind of shit. The bad people I don't know, they fuck off and they lose their minds or whatever.
You get saltines.
Yeah, but it's but it's not a heaven and hell distinction. It's just reward and punishment difference.
Yeah,
as far as I know.
Yeah, there should be graded punishment, right?
Oh, I agree, and I think it's funny because like the innermost circle of hell is apostasy. It's like, yeah, you could be like, you could rape a baby and then eat it, but you're still not going to be in the most torturous places like a person who just doesn't believe.
I
You
don't
know,
know.
Gandhi is in the center circle. He's in like the centermost circle of hell because he wasn't Christian.
With that one statement, you kind of went to the maximum of what I think is evil.
Yeah, well, I know that was the point
Really?
of that, right?
Oh, okay.
Like,
Okay.
yeah, you could do the most evil thing imaginable. You could literally be Hitler, but you're still not going to get as much torture as a person who simply doesn't believe in God.
What it was like to be
Good
Hitler?
friend who I can ask about these questions if I really, really want to.
What?
I have a Jewish friend I can ask about.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, the circles of hell I was talking about, that wasn't for Judaism. That was for Christianity.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's
No,
a
I don't think-
more spiritual aspect to Judaism that I've
Mhm.
heard about that interested me, and I thought it sounded very Zen to me.
Yeah,
Dante's Inferno is a Christian fan fiction.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. That's what I was referring to. I was referring to Dante's Inferno.
Yeah,
I
know,
don't
was
think.
listening to it.
Yeah, I don't think Judaism actually has like punishment specifically for apostasy. I think you're graded on your actions whether you're Jewish or not.
Wait, the innermost circle in Dante's Inferno.
Yeah,
Well,
because there's like the 7 rings of hell or whatever.
9.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
the innermost circle in
Whatever it is.
Dante's Inferno is betrayal, right? I thought that's the innermost circle.
So the thing when you go on Standing for Truth channel and you're the only atheist there, and there are 5 of them on the stream,
Standing in whose channel?
standing for shit.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, when you go on his channel or Praise That I Am or any of those guys, and there are like 5 Christians there, and they're all in agreement, all young Earth creationists, all of them are thinking about you roasting in hell while they're sitting under a palm tree eating grapes with some fair maiden. And I mean, they kind of get off on believing that you're going to go to hell unless you start agreeing with them. Isn't that true? I mean, that is a weird hangout to walk into.
Oh yeah, no, it is.
I completely retract what I said. I was completely wrong. The 6th circle of hell is heresy, whereas the 9th circle of hell is treachery.
You were wrong too.
I was wrong. Yeah.
No, you
I think
were
Circle 7 and 8 are.
actually no. You know what?
I've read Dante's Inferno, so we had to go through every single canto
Really?
in English class in my sophomore year.
It sounds like you're going through hell.
If you have to read Dante's Inferno, you're going through hell.
I actually got to the point where I would rather read Dante's Paradiso just because it includes astronomy in it.
I stole that book from Brown Drug when I was 13 years old, and I still have it.
Oh,
Damn.
You know, you're going to have to stop publicizing your felonies here.
I really doubt the feds are going to knock my door down over. At that time, I think the book was 67 cents or something like that. That was a retail value.
Just consider that we have informants in this room, okay?
Oh, okay. Oh,
The fuck?
oh, I never thought of that. And the drones. What about the drones? And the raccoons.
And the
Always
raccoon.
watching.
Raccoon. That fucking raccoon was sitting out there. I have my fence wired to the window, the top part of the fence. He was out there with his little hands checking out the wires around the screws, trying to figure out how to get them off, so that he could get into the fence, come through the cat door, and see me in person and say, "Hey, where's dinner?" I've had 2 possum in the house, little tiny possums. They come through the cat door, and boy, are those cool little critters.
Yeah, possums are so cute. I love possums.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're rather intelligent too. They know how to play dead.
yeah. Well, possums are actually pretty good evidence for evolution as well. Because the current thinking is that Metatherians evolved in Gondwana, specifically South America, and then they went to Australia via a land bridge because Antarctica didn't have ice on it during like the late Cretaceous and then like the Eocene, Oligocene, that time period. So they think that the marsupials went through Antarctica to get to Australia. So actually, Ameridelphins, so New World possums, are more basal to like the overall marsupial lineage than other New World marsupials such as like Monte del Montes or Manito del Montes, I think is what they're called.
Wow.
So yeah, that's just a little interesting thing of biogeography as well.
Yes.
Shame we don't have time machines.
I think possums. I don't think they were here like 50 years ago. I think they just moved into Minnesota recently. People in St. Paul are calling the police because possums are chasing them around the parking lots, and they're afraid of them.
I think possums are cute.
Well, I had one I called Posse, and I used to make him dinner every night. I'd make him mashed potatoes and gravy and meat and bring it out to this wood pile because I felt sorry for him. And I had him for like 3 years, and then we found him dead in the driveway.
Yeah,
Oh.
they don't live very long. Possums only live like 4 or 5 years.
Well, he had tire tracks over him, so I'm thinking it wasn't a natural death.
that one only lived about 3.
And then I told told one of my twins about it. I hope he's not watching this stream because we never actually told him it was him, but it was right where he parked his car. And when I told him that Posse was dead, that somebody ran over Posse, he said, "Oh my God, I just saw him the other night when I was going to my car." And we didn't have the heart to tell Dustin that.
Wait, one of your twins? How many twins do you have?
I have two twins. Two twins.
They're not twins. They're triplets, right?
No, I have 2 twins.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Your children are twins.
Yeah, my 2
I
boys.
thought like you have siblings. I thought you were talking about your siblings.
No.
He thinks you had multiple pairs of twins.
Oh, yeah. my sons are identical twins. So.
Oh, nice.
They,
beautiful.
Yeah. They're highly identical. Frighteningly so. They seem like the same, and they both talk at the same time. So that when you're talking to them, they walk around in circles and they both talk to you at the same time. So you have to sort the words somehow. I don't know. It's bizarre. Anyway, so yeah, I learned to take input from 2 different places, but I was a little with Otangelo today. He can burn you out just getting you to find papers and links and put them up on the screen. I was kind of overwhelmed by that, and I was trying to bring them back to this point in the discussion where basically you guys were talking to him, and I was downloading papers, and he was talking about, let's see, somebody said, right, but those are still genetic in some cases, right? Most of those are still genetic and protein based, and then he said there are many different epigenetic factors, and he started listing his factors. And then he talks about the glycan code, and then he says, let's see, where's the part about science? It's not genetic at the beginning, understand? Okay. And so basically we don't understand. And I think he said that scientists don't know yet. And that is kind of the,
Okay, can we just talk about one? Okay, what the fuck?
Okay, so then this part is what I want to talk to him about. Hormones, the bioelectric code, what directions are neurons in the central nervous system, and science is just at the beginning. Something that this is a translation from Google. So then he mentions the neuronal spike code, rate code. They don't know how to make the interpretation of the spikes. They're like a radio signal in phase, and so on. And we were talking about embryogenesis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he seemed to be making the claim that somehow neurons, and he did again today, made the claim that somehow neurons, and then he cited a paper on cucumbers. And I'm like, wait a minute, cucumbers do not have neurons.
Yeah. And also, I don't think his duality thing really helps his case too much as far as like cell differentiation and all that. Just because, like, is he implying that like sponges have cells? Or not sponges. Sponges have souls. They obviously have cells. But like, the sponges have souls? Where does the soul line stop? Does it stop at Animalia? Why
stop reading about SpongeBob SquarePants?
Yeah, if you're not making it exclusive to like humans, then where do you draw the line at souls? Are there amoebas? Or with
Cucumbers.
Do cucumbers have souls?
Well, one of the papers was about cucumbers and zucchini and a bunch of other stuff, and these bioelectric fields having something to do with development. I printed the paper. I'll read it in the morning.
E. coli, do they have souls?
Hello.
Hello, I'm in it.
I said only humans have souls because we're special.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, I mean, like that's
Yeah.
generally the position, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they give it to like certain mammals, like dogs, because they can't fathom an existence without their pet dog.
Well,
But like,
if you start to break that down and you start looking at, okay, so part of what your mind is and supposedly your soul are the thoughts that you have and the will that you have and your thinking, right? So if humans are the only ones that have souls, then they have to believe that raccoons do not have any consciousness and are just some sort of empty robot, that they don't have any subjective life at all, and that they don't have free will. And even though they will do some of the same things we do, like try to break into my fence, they don't have free will, right?
yeah,
So I mean, how the hell does that all hash out? The thing is,
let's put it this way: the only thing that doesn't have a soul is your ex-wife and or ex-girlfriend.
that's a fact.
I think like
Ouch.
so. Ultimately, we're pretty confident that there's at least some animals with semblances of self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Like we have the red dot test, the mirror test, all that kind of stuff. You know, if you put a mirror in front of an elephant, the elephant starts checking out its tusks, you know, to see like how it looks and all that. It doesn't get aggressive or anything. And the same's true with like a lot of other animals, like pigs, dolphins, great apes, that kind of stuff. Most of them will like see themselves and be able to recognize that it's themselves and not another potentially threatening animal. So they at least have some sort of self-awareness to be able to look at something and be like, oh, hey, that's me.
Right, like my Saint Bernard, when we first brought him home, he was a 40-pound puppy, and we have these wall-length mirrors, and he went in there and he started attacking himself and freaking out. But he was only like 6 weeks old or 8 weeks old, and then after about another month or two, he was around the mirrors all the time, and he was fine with it. I mean, at some point, he learned, just like a child does, that mirror was actually his reflection.
Yeah.
I don't know why dogs' go-to mechanism for figuring out if it's them or another dog is sniffing their own ass.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to have a bearded dragon, and if I put like a mirror in its cage, it would start doing aggression displays where it would like wind up its arm and all this kind of stuff, and it would puff up its beard. And it's because it thought it was like another threatening male, right? Because it's a lizard. It's not that smart. But
did it ever learn? Did it ever quit?
No. No.
Hey, Ian's here.
No.
Hopefully Ian's still here. Hi, Ian, if you're still here. Extremely boring video conference at work. Anyway.
Maybe I should tell y'all, because I feel like I see the chat pretty frequently.
Yeah. I didn't. Yeah, you should probably tell me.
Yeah.
We need somebody to keep an eye on it. Because I certainly can't, because as Mutable pointed out, I'm 69 years old and brain ain't what it used to be.
Well, I guess I wasn't wrong.
Millowini.
He's gonna cry himself to sleep thinking about that tonight, Immutable. I hope you're happy.
I'm just glad that I didn't lie to him, okay?
I just love when I
Gotta
just
rip
love,
that Band-Aid now.
I love when people do this ageist bullshit, you know? It's just fucking amazing. I just
I'm
love it.
not cruel enough to tell a child that Santa Claus doesn't exist, but
Yeah. Anyway, somebody's got to let me know when I'm senile, because I probably won't be the best judge of it. Hard to say. Anyway, so I think if I have another conversation with Otangelo, I think I'm going to have one of you guys around to manage papers and kind of manage that thing so I can stay on this track. And I want to get him to talk a little bit more about why he believes that. The other thing was he mentioned neuronal evolution as being neurons being proof of irreducible complexity. And those two drilling points are where we will go.
Remind me what the fuck irreducible complexity is.
It's impossible for it to have evolved because every part depends on every other part. So it all had to appear at once. So a
Why
Why
neuron had
can't they just accept that they gotta
I
use
know.
biogenesis to create life?
It's
Yeah.
basically a slightly, I'm not going to say more sophisticated, but it's a little bit more complex than like, oh, what gets half a wing? Because it's essentially the same argument. It's just usually at a genetic or like at a micro level instead of like a macro level.
The only thing that's changed, like with irreducible complexity, is the fact that when people reference it now, all they are doing is trying to appeal to more complex biological phenomenon and claim that the thing of their choice is irreducibly complex.
Well, it's right here.
Instead of going to like the typical go-to examples like the bacteria flagella, ATP synthase, and other things that we already know how they evolved.
Yeah.
Or it used to be like, what gets half a wing? How did the eye evolve? That kind of stuff. Like,
Those are his words right there. Complexity in biology is far greater than we ever imagined. No, that's not true. We've imagined that complexity. A lot of us have anyway. I most certainly did.
Well, and the thing is, like I mentioned to him on I think it was last night. Yeah, it was last night. But what I was asking was like, okay, whoever like gave this impression like that this is a simplistic system?
yeah.
Like, because reading through like textbooks on genetics and things like that, it gives you a perspective of what people were thinking, and I don't think people thought that this was going to be simple. I mean, even in the 1920s, 1930s,
No.
like researchers understood that at the most basic level, like that there's some storage of genetic information, and that it has to be a molecule and it has to have certain properties to it. But they didn't think it was simple. I mean,
Okay, look at this statement here. That is a pretty powerful statement. I like the word aleatorio. I caught that. But my point is that the main tenet upon which evolution is based, that aleatorio, it's hard to say that 10 times, mutations are responsible for that kind of complexity. That is just a pseudo-scientific nonsense, which is 160 years old. Well, Darwin didn't know about aleatorio mutations.
Yeah, that's rhetorical.
Yeah.
Well,
And I mean, it's just sort of
like the notion of allelic variation is something that wasn't proposed by Darwin at all. It was something proposed by Mendel mostly.
yeah.
Like it was Mendel who recognized that like changes in allelic frequency, like in I think it was pea plants.
It was heightened peanuts.
Well, no, hold on. A little correction. Mendel didn't know what the mechanisms were. He didn't,
neither did Darwin.
Experiments. Well, yeah, exactly. And
No, he didn't know what it was. But he knew like what he was describing, like the types of like kind of not intermediary forms, the kind of hybrid forms, like between like a wrinkled pea and a non-wrinkled and a smooth pea. Like is something that he would attribute like the ancestral traits as being alleles.
I don't think he actually called them alleles. I could be wrong though, but I don't think he knew about alleles. He didn't know about genes, but he noticed that
Well, and he also definitely didn't know about mutations either. Like Mendel wouldn't have been talking about allelic mutations. I don't think aleatorial is a word.
No, it isn't.
It's a good word.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I like it.
Who said this anyway? I really wish
Otangelo, I believe.
I'm sending it to Merriam-Webster and asking them to put it in the dictionary. I like it.
I think allelic is a word that would fit the same context, but yeah, that's always an argument I find kind of weird though, where they're like, Darwin's such an idiot. He didn't account for X, Y, or Z. That's like some sort of molecular interaction. It's like Darwin had no idea about that. Nobody knew about that until like the 70s.
Actually, if you read Darwin's writing, he didn't have like the modern conception of like DNA and all this stuff down pat.
Yeah.
But he did actually understand that like what he would refer to as a gemule.
Mm-hmm.
That like that there had to be like some housing of information like regarding these characteristics he was observing, and that it had to be stored in some capacity, but he didn't know what that type of thing was.
Yeah. So that was pretty much the foundational predictions that he made for his whole theory. He was like, okay, so there has to be some sort of connection between the phenotype and the genotype. Like phenotype must be inheritable. And then also that there must be some sort of system that can change the phenotype, right? well, there's some sort of system that can change the genotype, therefore altering the phenotype. And those were the two sort of like foundational principles of Darwin's ideas. Hello, Brainbug. Welcome to the chat.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Brainbug. Hi,
The thing
Brainbug.
that Darwin nailed down rather well was, I don't know if the notion of an allele was necessarily present, but his idea that was central and revolutionary was that these things that are manifested in nature, like these things that we can observe that organisms have, being phenotypes, they change over time, like quite obviously. And you can see that like by studying finches in the Galapagos Islands, like over several years. And he was clever enough to realize that, even though he didn't know precisely how that information would be stored, that this change, like within information, has to have some physical. It necessarily has to be physical in some sense.
Mhm.
Like there needs to be some way for the phenotype to be embedded within the creature.
Yeah.
In what you would call a gemule, which we now call cells. But
So Erica's watching a movie tonight, and she suggests that we have another talk about. We can't talk about that online. Anyway,
The big secret.
it's a big secret.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think Darwin, especially, like, given where like biology was at that time, was ahead of his. Like, was very intelligent and very ahead of his field.
Yeah, you know what? Like, Darwin's cool and all, but one of the craziest early biologists that I always think of is Cuvier. Like, he was the first person to think of extinction as like a concept. That's so crazy to me that before, the mid 1700s, nobody thought that organisms could go extinct.
Well, oh God, what was it? Like Wallace and people like that noticed that earlier, didn't they? I mean,
like Alfred Russel Wallace. Alfred Russel Wallace was contemporary to Darwin. Cuvier existed. He was about 100 years before that. Yeah, Cuvier. He basically was the founder, or he was like the idea. I don't know. Things like extinction and faunal succession were his brainchildren, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, because I know like that the conventional mode of thought, like back then, was that. And it did kind of nest itself in a version of creationism that essentially has been modified.
Yeah.
But it's that species, like as they were, have always existed through time.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, in some way, like they've just always been here, and they don't change that much over time. Like it never leaves its kind, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, that was sort of the idea whenever they were first like discovering extinct animals and stuff. They thought like God created basically organisms in waves, right? So you had like one ecosystem, then all of them would die out, and then he would create the next ecosystem, and then all of them would die out. And that's what basically Cuvier's idea of faunal succession was. And then we later realized that like the die-off process is more due to like natural selection, and it's not all of the organisms dying off. It's adaptive radiation that follows the extinction events and all that kind of stuff. So what is this?
I got a picture that I just pulled off Google just randomly, but this is basically a dynamical systems and morphogenesis. And this is the way they do this is the arrows mean that it's promoted. So something is promoted. And when you have a little something like that, can you see my cursor? That means that it's inhibited, right? And there are all these different networks, and they work according, with all these different factors, psi and phi. And there are all sorts of feedback loops going on. And this is just a very, very simple, tiny little speck. And basically genetics or genes alone and the information coming from the mother's cell, the zygote, and the world around, which would be the womb or the placenta for our development, or an egg, are enough to create enormous, unbelievable, unimaginable, astronomical complexity alone, without any bioelectrics or any spooky shit going on. I mean, this is just one example, and there's another one here. Let me see if I can pop that up. Get rid of this one. Where did I spot that? Anyway, Thought this was. Oh shit! I lost it. I lost it. Me old brain lost it. I don't know
I'm
where it
gonna
went.
It's getting a little late where I am.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
getting a little late. Anyway, there's I mean, if you start looking into morphogenesis and these regulatory patterns, it's incredibly complex, and there's no. I don't understand why people can't imagine that this is enough to self-create an organism, for an organism to auto-create itself. Anyway, it is late. I have some amazing stew waiting. Oh, there's one other thing. Are you guys still with me, or have you
Yeah.
left? Okay.
I'm still here. Brainbug just commented, name another field of science that we're supposed to weigh in based upon the Victorian understanding of the field. Well, if you're a flat earther, the answer is physics. Well, Newton was wrong. Einstein completely destroyed Newton. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, Newton was wrong.
This is just a real simple example of an invagination, basically.
Mhm.
These cells down here, they grow at different rates from one end of them to the other, and it creates this little loop down here. And then there are signals up here that close this off, and that becomes your brain. Basically, that's how that was the very basic beginnings of your brain. And also many other organisms are created by this invagination. And it's kind of a simple process. It's mechanical, it's, genetic and physiological, but it's very, very interesting. And there are these microtubules and lamins and stuff that create this extracellular structure, and this is what determines your cell fate. But when you look at these diagrams and patterns, each little piece of it is extremely complex, and then the whole thing is all happening at once. So that's basically how. And this is epithelial cells. There's something called EMT, or epithelial to mesenchymal cells. I love the way Nephilim pronounces mesenchymal. He does it different every time. It's wonderful. But anyway, what happens is these cells will break up and they'll start to float around, and they become other organs. So this epithelial sticking together dissolves, and these cells start to float around, and that has a great deal to do with embryogenesis. But there are so many patterns like this. I think there's like about 14 kind of general ones that you read about in embryology, but it all becomes very interesting. I'd like to do a few videos on that someday if I ever learn how to use OBS Studios, which kind of sucks. Anyway, so Brainbug, are you still here? Are you still here, Brainbug? Because I want to talk to you about insects.
Yeah, he had a live stream earlier, and I just barely caught the end of it. Like, literally, for some reason, every time I try to join a live stream, they're always like, all right, guys, good night, as soon as I get on. So I'm going to have to rewatch most of it later.
Yeah, I've got to hook up my microscope. I don't like my camera. I wish it was better, but I've got to hook up my microscope to this computer. I've got it hooked up to my other Mac. I just got to download the software. Really disturbed that my blog ain't there no more. Anyway, I will have to fix that. But bugs. I found some bugs, and I have questions. I have questions about bugs. What's that?
Where'd Immutable go? I was
he
looking
signed.
something up real quick.
Yeah, he decided it was too late for him, and he's the one that always wants us to
go at 9.
Go at 9 instead of like early. Oh yeah,
he really likes the 9 p.m., which is weird because isn't that like 10 p.m. CST or EST for him?
For him, right?
No. See, Immutable lives in EST.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, isn't that that means we started at 10?
Yeah, it's actually
it's like 11:30 over
11:30
EST, right?
Right. So I found this little tiny bug that you could not see very well with the naked eye, and it has wings, and behind the wings it has two filaments sticking out, and on the end of them are little like suction cups. And I'm like, what in the hell am I looking at? And I found 2 or 3 of them, and I keep they blow away. They're so tiny. But anyway, if I find another one, I want to talk to Brainbug about that damn thing. The amazing alien type bugs you see when you have a microscope and you can look in detail on them. It's incredible. Particularly what I really like is the ones that look like little specks, like a period, the size of a period, and you blow them up to 90 or 180, and they become these incredible creatures that you expect to see on Netflix, and Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Tiny, like whenever bugs are like blowing up and stuff.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. Honestly, like if there was like a human-sized daddy long legs, that would be like nightmare fuel, even though I think they're really cool. Like as an animal, they don't bite you or anything. Me and daddy long legs are chill, but they look quite intimidating if they were like 2 or 3 feet bigger.
Yeah, they are cool. Let's see if I can start this up. Oh my goodness! For some reason, everything has quit working again. My mouse is not working very well. Let's see, start cam. Okay.
I like this quote. Newton, Einstein, and Darwin are allowed to be wrong. Science is not built on the shoulders of men, but upon the understanding that grows from theirs. Like I always took the whole shoulders of giants to have that implied, but yeah, that's fair.
So this is my tray of bugs, and I use a piece. These are like burrs, little burrs they get stuck on. And I use a piece of clay with glass slides under it, so I can slide it around and move it. And somewhere on this thing, I believe, is one of those little alien bugs down there. But anyway, this is a pretty cool setup. And you can see this whole mess over here. You can just dig through that all day long. And I have last year's bugs stored in the freezer. So,
anyways, I'm going to go. Thank you for having me on, Speed.
Okay, thank you for coming, Midnight.
Good night.
Yep.
Nice.
Bye.
Anyway, I got to look at 5 bugs a day, or I don't feel like I've had a life. Speaking of a fucking life, I really want to go shopping somewhere. I really do, but I can't.
Are you like completely constrained to your house, or?
Yeah, well, I go to Sam's Club for this like early hours thing where there's only like 5 people in the store, and when I come out, I'm terrified.
Why?
Well, I used to smoke 6 packs a day 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And my breathing is not what it should be. And the other, my age, so I'm at about a 20% gonna die level. But I'm not worried about dying so much. I'm worried about how the 30 days that you spend on a respirator before you get there. I mean,
yeah, well, if it's super advanced, you get put into like a ventilator, and they knock you out when you're on a ventilator. So.
Oh, they did, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're shoving a tube down your throat, so they put you out.
Yeah, and you spend the last 30 days of your life unconscious. It's like,
yeah.
I want to spend the last 30 days of my life high on mushrooms.
Of all things to choose, I've thought about this before. Like, not like, if I'm going to die, I want to be on drugs. I want to be lucid when I'm, like, dead, right?
Yeah.
Not when I'm dead, but when I'm dying. But, like, I've always thought, like, what's the point of doing crack? Like, if I'm going to die on a drug, might as well go all out,
Right. I mean, I kind of want to experience the moment of death because I've always like reflected subjectively as to like if the doctor put me on like Wellbutrin and lithium a while back, and this doctor loved me because 3 weeks after he put me on a drug, he could ask me subjectively what it was like, and I could talk to him for a half an hour about the subjective feeling of the drug, entering your system. And how Wellbutrin affects you, and how lithium affected me, and all of that. And I've always subjectively reflected. So I've always thought, like, if I hit a semi, it's really going to be kind of fun to experience that, that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
It's another subjective experience.
Brainbug just put another comment in, by the way.
Oh, I'm down to talk about bugs sometime. If you like, let's see, hang on a second here. If you like macro images, I can give you some names on Instagram with beautiful photos. Yes, I do. Email me. My email is the same as my channel name, Speed of Sound of Gravity @gmail.com. And we could talk.
If you ever do that, would you mind me third wheeling? Because You know,
No.
I think arthropods are super cool, but I feel like they're one of the, at least living arthropods are one of the groups I know least about. Like I can tell you a good amount about like Cambrian arthropods and stuff.
Yeah.
But like anything alive right now, anything that has not died out in the past 400 million years, I have no idea like what the fuck's going on. Except
Yeah,
for I
when I
guess
was
the pyramids.
When I was a kid, I used to really be into insects and studied them, but I haven't since then, and I know very little about classifying them, and I would like to get into them, but Otangelo is keeping me busy now.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I always think like arthropods are the coolest. Like they're the closest you're gonna get to like aliens on Earth.
Yeah,
They're so weird.
very, very different.
I appreciate the weird.
If you take a course in embryology, you'll go through Drosophila, which is really entertaining to watch. Basically, the way they develop is quite cool, and we know a lot about it. We know a great deal about the different fields that are set up and how all the different pieces form. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Syncytial zygotes, basically, were around the perimeter of the zygote. There are all these nuclei that form, and they're all in one cell. There's no differentiation of cell walls, and then they start to form their own walls, and they break up and they take off, and it's really, really very cool.
Yep.
I think it's probably the most interesting field that I've ever encountered, other than neuroscience kind of competes with it, but very, very interesting, the complexity you can get into in morphogenesis. Pretty cool. I like it. Okay, guys, I'm going to go eat some stew and watch, what am I watching? I'm watching something on Netflix. It's about, it's a fantasy thing with a girl with a sword. What the hell's the name of it?
Hey, before you guys head out, I was trying to look up a specific image that I found today. You guys probably remember that other time where I was talking about astronomy, and the infinite universe once being infinitely dense, right?
That was 2 days ago. That was 2 days ago. Yeah.
Okay. So I found an image that I think illustrates that nicely. It's the best one I can find so far, but I'd like to share it with you guys if I can share my screen, if that's okay.
Sure. You can.
All right. One sec.
Oh, Immutable forgot to ask his question.
Yeah, I know. I saw. I'm curious what it is now. He's kind of teased me with it.
Yeah. Well, I blocked him anyway because of the ageist comment. So,
well, I feel like he's kind of hyped it up, and it's going to be something I can't even answer because it's going to be like something specific about like genetics. I hope not. Genetics scare me.
Can you guys read okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so this is kind of the image that, like, so you can imagine all these as humongous galaxies. So this, so the sizes are a little off because we know the observable universe is not 78 billion light years across. But again, this is the best image I could find today. It looks pretty cool. Like it's the power of infinity that. Like he said, if we go smaller and smaller time since the Big Bang, the green circle shrinks to a point, but the box is always full, and it is always an infinitesimal fraction of the infinite universe.
Right.
So the universe is always full. It's just different amounts of full, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, which matches up very well with the real number line, and those different kinds of if you want to look into that, look into Cantor, Cantor, and set theory. And you'll get into some of the how he proved that there were different sizes to infinities, and it is quite mind-blowing. And then the interesting thing about that is when you get into that, when you start talking about all of the points between 0 and 1, you also enter into this huge field of probabilities. And let's see, I'm tired and I can't remember the kind of algebra, sigma algebras. And you get into all of this abstract algebra, and it's just a wonderful field to get into.
Yeah.
Plus set theory is pretty wonderful. I love applying sets to things. So anyway, guys. Oh, shit. Yeah. I think we'll call her quits.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting tired myself.
It's been an hour and 39 minutes. Should we go for an hour 40? Nah, let's cut it.
Yeah.
I feel like most of that we came to talk about like your talk with the Otangelo, and it just got super like into philosophy and stuff.
Well, I don't know. I wonder if anybody could ever endure listening to us, and actually get something out of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope some of it is somewhat interesting to people. But
I liked the like I said, I know I kind of brought it off topic with Russell's teapot, but I like the idea so much that I think we should create a banner and start worshiping the celestial teapot.
Celestial
that's
teapot.
definitely a thing. I feel like that is definitely a thing somewhere on the internet.
I will work on that.
Just because it's such a wonderful idea.
It is a wonderful idea. Yeah, I don't know. They claim we're straw manning them when we come up with these things, but you know what? When you listen to Otangelo said they were talking about how mean I was to Otangelo before I talked to him today.
Really?
And, yeah, that on that 30-minute thing where they were just beating the hell out of me for no reason other than me saying no to SFT. They were talking about how I strawmanned Otangelo by saying that his argument was it's complex, therefore God. But I still can't see any other way to frame that argument.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a straw man when we say it to them, but when they say it to us, it doesn't sound any different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, so what I was trying to drill down today and get him to talk about is the details of what he believed about this bioelectric brain mind thing. And I mean, if he wants to talk about philosophy and how, dualism explains how this happens, then fine, let's talk about the details of how that spirit mind interferes with the physical universe and creates an organism. How does that work in embryology? Because his claims are testable and falsified. I mean, these are things that we're not talking about history. What Otangelo is claiming can be looked at and tested, and these theories can be hashed out. So I'd like to get him into some details on it. So that's kind of where I was going with it. But it's hard for me to stay focused when people are hitting me, from this side and that side, and I'm putting up documents. And how did I do today? Was it okay?
What, like the live stream?
Yeah.
I thought this was. I mean, like your conversation with Otangelo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
thought that was pretty on topic.
Good. Okay, I'm going to end the broadcast, guys. We'll just have a short chat afterwards. Okay.
Okay.
Ending.